Hi, I'm Mark LaPierre, an on-set programmer and member of IATSE 480. If you don't know Lightwright, there's a lot going on. Lightwright is kind of like a spreadsheet program that was taught about drafting, power services, distros, phases, electrical loads, cables, DMX, profiles, addressing, fixture numbers, consoles, MVR, MA parameter count, etc EOS, gels, accessory, paperwork, labels, and a bunch of other things for about 38 years. No one ever has as much time during prep as they'd like, right? Lightwright knows so much about those things I listed, it can error check your work in real time, allowing you to work accurately and safely at speed. Let's walk through some of the major tasks for prepping a film. But obviously the same workflow or modified versions work for the variety of locations of your production. First off is sync. Getting your data into Lightwright is easy. It speaks directly to Vectorworks and etc EOS consoles. It imports from CSV. And of course, you can just add devices manually, but smartly. Let's start with Vectorworks.
Let's get Lightwright and Vectorworks synchronized. We're going to start in Lightwright, create a new show, big budget film. Hit create. Now we're going to go over to Vectorworks. I have here a small stage from Outer Range, and we're going to get this exporting and synchronizing. So let's go to File, Document Settings, Spotlight Preferences. Make sure you're navigated to the Lightwright tab. We're going to turn on Use Automatic Lightwright Data Exchange. Notice this perform a full export to Lightwright when dialog box closes. You may want to remember this for later. Sometimes when things go squirrely, that's the best answer. We want to make sure that we have the absolute address over here. Sometimes it's not, and that is very important to the synchronization working. And last thing, same location as file is where it's going to create this XML file that has all of the data that is being shuttled back and forth. If you want to choose a different location, you can. I'm going to click OK. So now let's go over to Lightwright. Now we're going to go up to here where the icon for Vectorworks is. Go ahead and click that. We're going to hit Start Data Exchange. I can see the XML file right there. Click on that and click Open. Now down here is an indication of how Lightwright is going to map in fields from Vectorworks. I find the default works great for me, but if you wish to customize something, this is the time to do it. Let's go ahead and click Save Mappings and Start Data Exchange. Here's the last warning. Data Exchange ready, switch back to Vectorworks. So if you cast your eyes down here, when I switch back, yep, you saw a really fast progress bar down there in the corner, and that is the data syncing. So when we go back to Lightwright now, and that's the only time we have to do that. Here's all of the data, and we can sort it however we wish. Notice we haven't yet added addresses. We're going to do that in a little bit.
Let's do a tiny truck package. I personally start any truck pack in the console. If you are an EOS user like me, you're in luck, because Lightwright syncs with EOS.
This icon up here is the EOS console link. Go ahead and click that. We need to add a console. At the moment, I'm running EOS on my laptop, the same one. So I'm going to name this laptop because, of course, we're using the 127 loopback. So let's go ahead and hit Add. Now I already have the show file open, but it's not yet configured. So let's go over to EOS and let's go to Setup, Show Control. OSC. So we want to make sure that these are both open. We need to make sure that it is 1.1. And it's going to throw a warning down here that they're going to have to turn off OSC for a hot sec to reset the format. Click Enter. Great. We should be ready now. So let's go back over to Lightwright and hit Connect. And you can see the green for connected. So the rest of this actually all happens through here. We're going to click Compare Patch. This is a small package, but I do have some reference fixtures in here. That's why there's so many things. Notice this first listing is channels in Eos, but not in Lightwright. That's the function that we're using, so that's good. I'm going to tell Lightwright which fixtures I want by clicking on this first one, scrolling down, pressing Shift, and then selecting the last one. Now I'm going to click Add to Lightwright. Great. And click OK. So all of the fixtures are now in. Let's go to the worksheet. Now the only real thing to do here is clean up names. So we're going to go up to here, which is Maintenance, Instrument Type. And though these are good for describing things in profile, long names are not my favorite. Ooh, this is good. This is actually the same fixture as this S60 up here. So I'm going to click both of these, and then I'm going to say merge, and I get to choose which one, and that's the one I'm picking. Okay. So now we can actually assign some profiles. I'll just do this one in front of us all. You want to exclude the manufacturer name here. I find that that's the most efficient way to do this. Select that. I'm selecting mode 6 and hit OK. So now, in addition to the mode, Lightwright also knows what the electrical load is, what the weight of the unit is, and obviously with that mode goes the DMX footprint. I'm going to skip ahead and do the rest of these, and then we're going to keep on working. For people who are not EOS programmers, I have rolled back the show file to show you another way to get data in easily, and that is through CSV. Most consoles will support export to CSV, so I have exported the same patch and opened it up in numbers just because I'm a Mac user. Be sure to remove every piece of data that you do not need. So I don't actually need this. So we are going to delete that column, and then we are going to re-export to CSV. And we're going to overwrite. Okay, so let's go to File, Import from CSV. We're going to select the file, Open. So it's showing a preview of all of the data that it is about to import. Next, we go to the Map Columns area. And we are going to, the only thing that it missed was fixture type, because it calls it instrument type. So we correct that, and we import devices. And let's click Done. And there's all of the data. And now you're free to go to Instrument Maintenance, clean up the names, assign profiles.
Once the fixtures are in, you may have several people working at once. Maybe your rigging best boy wants to lay out the cable plan, and you want your rigging programmer to address anything that isn't done.
Adding people to collaborate is super easy. Go ahead and go to Settings, Collaborators, and all you need to do is fill in their email here. So I'm going to invite my friend Sam. So now that his email is added, I can decide whether he is just an editor or a viewer. And when he makes changes or is working in the worksheet, I can decide what color his changes are. So it's easy for me to identify who's doing what across multiple collaborators. Let's say we're showing up for prep, and on the day, we find out that there are some added S120Cs. So of course we could just copy and paste, but let's take a look at the add devices for examples when you are wanting more. So we're going to add 2 this time. We're going to do starting at 836, and then I'm going to hit this plus, and that means it's going to count for me. Position, we're going to do ground row. Yep, we just start filling in the position, and Lightwright populates the information. Unit numbers, we're not doing that on this particular rig. We haven't gotten to addressing yet, so that's fine. We could either start typing in RE, or we could just click on this list to choose the fixture. So let's just click add. All right, so now that we have all of this data, you'll notice, of course, we haven't addressed this. So this is one of the cool things about going through and having put in all of the profile data. So let's say on this stage, we're starting on universe 21/1. And if I hit this plus, it'll use the profile knowledge that it has to make intelligent decisions for us. Now that we have this addressing data in, it is instantly synchronized with Vectorworks. Notice we have the new address here. Spreadsheets kind of shine the more specific data that you put into them. Let's add a column for our linking key. So let's go to column setup, and we are going to add a user column. This you cannot edit, but the other two you can. Linking key, and let's call it link for short. So now that already exists, and when we go to columns, we go down, and there it is. We can add it. I know that these are all in one universe, so let's pretend that this is a Stardust. I'm going to say 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Great. World's most boring linking key. But this way you're able to include that data on your labels so that your team can work faster and more independently. So we're going to go to Power, and we are going to add a service. Let's edit it. This is going to be the south wall 200 amp. Okay. Now that we have a service, we can add things to it. So this is going to be LED power south, 200 amps, 20 amp per, AC 3-phase. Yep. Number of circuits, 48. And we're going to have a circuit prefix of A, starting number of 1. There's no address necessary. And we're going to do a standard 120 rack. So this shows you the phasing, ABC, ABC, etc. Let's go ahead and click OK. Let's go over to cables and start plugging some stuff in. So just as an example, I'm going to do this bar space south. This interface is set up so each position is listed as basically just a rectangular object. But we're just going to do this south thing right here as an example. So let's start new multi. We're going to select a cable type. Let's say that this is a 100 foot. And click OK. And now we can just click each object. And it'll start plugging in. Now, if we wanted to do a twofer, which we're going to want to here, I would press down Control or Command, depending on which kind of computer I'm on, and then hit it again. And same thing down here. And now we can click Save. So when we select this over on the right, we can name it Bar South. This is an Edison breakout. And now we can hook up the multi to our power. So notice that there's sets of 6, right? Because that's what we have on our multi. You can configure that to be differently if you'd like. I'm just going to choose the first one and go ahead and click OK. So now if we wanted to get granular, we could go to the cable worksheet, expand this, and start adding single run extensions so our mult can reach our fixtures. So let's say that's going to be the first in line, so we don't need that, but maybe that's a 5 foot Edison, 10-foot Edison, 15-foot Edison, 20-foot Edison and a twofer, and a 25-foot Edison and a twofer. All of this data is available to us and will be counted when we're doing reports, is available for us to make labels with, all sorts of really cool stuff. So right now we are sorting the worksheet by position. Let's click on channel because this shows me everything sorted in order of channel. Great. So let's say that when we were doing the addressing here, instead of using that cool, in this case, 21/1 plus function, where we take advantage of the fact that we told Lightwright what the profile was, what if we misremembered that the S60s take 20 addresses and we typed in the starting address plus 19, which is telling Lightwright to do all of the addressing in sets of 19. So this little icon over here is for error checks. If we turn on the overlapping addresses, when we close it, we see that it's pointing out that we did the wrong thing. So let's fix it. 21/387 plus 20. And now all of those little flags go away. Basically, rinse and repeat this for so many subjects. This is one of my very favorite things about using Lightwright, is that it catches me when I have to work so fast that I can't triple check. So overloaded circuits, duplicate circuits, unassigned power distributor, all sorts of really useful things to help you work safely and quickly. So now that we've entered all of this great data, let's go up to here to paperwork. We're going to start a new kind of paperwork. And notice that you have current show, but also my library. So sometimes, you know, if you have a really specific kind of paperwork, or when we get to labels, it takes a while to configure things to be exactly what you want. So my library gives you access to everything. Let's go ahead and click plus. And we already have a whole mess of really useful presets to start from. Let's just do a channel hookup. And we are going to go with standard paper size in the United States, at least. Okay. And let's click on it to edit. So instantly it's showing you all of the information. These columns over here, if you're not using unit numbers, which always surprises me, aren't common practice on certain sets. Same with purpose or color, you can just eliminate them. Another thing that I would want on here would be the mode. So now that we've done good work, let's ruin it. Let's go back to layout. So you can just come into here, maybe start with auto size all, and then with some minimal tweaks, get where you're going. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So obviously you can edit these columns in real time and see the changes as you go. Don't forget to come up here and hit save, or else all of your work will be lost. And then of course from here you can just hit print and you can go to a PDF or directly to your printer. We're going to hit a plus. Same thing here, current show and my library. Let's start a new one. I like 2" by 4" for my fixtures. We are pulling, so there's all sorts of data sources that we can pull from. I'm going to be just sticking with the default data, device data source, because that is good for fixture labels. Label type sheet or roll, like right now supports roll printers. Let's do 5163. And you can see a little preview over here so that you can just visually confirm that with what you bought. Let's go ahead and hit save. So we're going to add text to start with. This is going to be our channel number. My guys always like to see this really big. So we're going to center, and we're going to make this pretty gargantuan. Let's say 36 font. And we're going to preview by pressing live data down here. And then I'm going to scroll up to the 3-digit numbers. Yep, we fit. Great. So let's go back to generic. And let's move this into the upper corner. So next we're looking for instrument type. So these names can get pretty long. Let's drag this out, make it bigger. And since these names can get long, let's use shrink, where let's preview again, if we get to a really long name, that it will shrink things so that we fit. Now, in this particular show file, it seems like we're good, but it's always good to be ready. It also means that we can go up in our font size, which I like. Let's make it easy to read from a greater distance. Is that the longest one? Seems like it. Yeah, so we can go up even more. Yeah, let's stop at 16. Cool. All right, so from here, we're gonna add mode. And let's include the field name. And what does that mean? It means that it is showing us the word mode. Well, yeah. On this particular example. There we go. Mode 91, things like that. This is also another one that you want to hit shrink on, and let's up it. Yeah. You want every square inch you can get with a mode. All right, cool. Let's make maybe a dividing line. We always start with a rectangle, so we're going to drag this out, and we're going to drag it out on the other side. Great. Let's make this 0.01 high. That's a good line. Actually, let's make this bigger. Excellent. Okay, so next thing that we're going to add is the address. Universe and address. So we're going to go to custom text. We're going to do address. And we are also going to use field name on this one. We're going to make it much bigger. And let's do shrink just in case we get up into the hundreds with our addressing, but no, we should be pretty good. And let's add the mult name. And we want to get to some of those. There we go. One of those items. So cool. We're going to drag this out a little bit more. We're going to make this bigger. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then right next to it, let's do mult number. And it was 20. Great. Actually, let's move these over and let's add the field name to this. Far South 1. And really fast, we have a label. So we're going to hit save again. So really quick, we have a label that pulls directly from all of the worksheet data that we've done. And then we have these options down here of what we want to do. So by default, Lightwright will use all of your devices to populate on here, or it can choose what is visible in the worksheet. So if you filter down, oh, I just want to see this lighting position, I want to see just that fixture type, and then you select worksheet, it will only show that. Back in the worksheet, you can select devices, and so you could go with selected, or you can go with custom. So let's click on that just for a sec. And you have basically every major piece of information that you've put into Lightwright available for your filtering. So you could decide to just do the south labels at this moment for some reason. And when you go to print, that's all that would be there.
Last couple things. I have a friend who was on a soap opera on a stage with tons of sets. He wanted to be able to make groups for each set so he could filter his programming.
Let's say we wanted a group with all of the fixtures from the south wall. So if I was just pulling this from the channel hookup, that would be challenging. And if I was just pulling this straight from here, that would also be challenging. So let's use some filtering to make our life easier. So we're going to filter, and we're going to choose every position with south in its name. Let's go ahead and click OK. So now we're filtered down only to the fixtures that we want. Okay. If I were not an EOS programmer at this point, I would filter by channel, and now I can just actually read the fixtures in order and input them in. This show file is fairly easy to do, but if you had a non-contiguous bunch of selections, this is really handy. So now for the EOS users, we are going to use this to select everything in here. We're going to go over here to console groups. We're going to create from selected devices. I'm going to call this South Bar, and I'm going to hit save. So now let's push it to the console. We're going to go back to our EOS console link. Let's connect. Okay, we see the green. That means we're good. We're going to select this, and we are going to send to console. Now we have choices here. We can send just the selected, or we can mirror the selected. Notice that warning that might delete groups on the console. That means you're sending just what's selected and overwriting everything else. So when in doubt, you always want to choose send selected. Let's hit OK. And it's already done. So let's go over to EOS, and we can see group 1 with all of those channels in it, ready to go.
This is scratching the surface of what is possible in Lightwright, but hopefully I've shown you how it can help you in your work every day on set.